Melissa Triebwasser joining us via the Zoom here today. Coach David Beaudin, our X's and O's expert, is alongside as well. Melissa's got a new haircut. Beaudin's got a new hat. It's a big day here for the roundtable. It's a big week as well for the Horned Frogs as they start off the football season. Obviously, practice number 1 was on Tuesday. And Melissa, I'm going to start with you. We talked earlier in the week about the carryover from spring to the fall here. It was as if this team sort of picked it up in mid-season. I'm not necessarily talking about what's happening on the field, but from an emotional standpoint, it feels like this group's kind of all together here early on, doesn't it?
Well, we've heard so many things come out from players, from coaches about just what a tight-knit unit this is and just what great energy that they are playing with, what great energy they have in the locker room. And you could tell on day one, even the national guys were just saying the tempo, like this is going to be a team that plays fast this year. And you can't build tempo without great chemistry. So it's obvious that chemistry, both on and off the field, has been developed throughout the spring. And like you said, it's picking up right where they left off in the fall.
That is a priority, it feels like, David, of this staff, and that is team chemistry. In fact, the one thing that Coach Dyke said in his opening press conference was, I don't feel like I had enough time to get to know the guys as guys. But maybe that's in his mind because it sure seems like they're all on the same page.
Sure, yeah. I think, on the field they are, right? And, those 10 assistants now in the summer with the rule change a couple years ago can get around them and actually do football, where in the past it was strictly strength and conditioning. Well, now they can do some football, and I think that really is shown here in this first week of camp. So that's a big deal. But I think for Sonny himself, as a new head coach taking over, it's just it's just hard to get that quality time, where you're just not talking about football and just kicking back with those guys. And I think that's the part he's alluding to. But certainly the stuff on the field, they really hit the ground running.
Yeah, they sure did after those first couple of practices earlier in the week. Melissa, the other thing that kind of stood out was the battle at quarterback. I mean, everybody's talking about it. Sonny made the comment, and David, you and I kind of smiled when he said it, that, no, it's wide open. It could be anybody in that room. Let's face it, it's a two-man race, Melissa. I mean, this is Chandler or this is Max, right?
Well, I think so. And I guess that Max won the rock, paper, scissors battle to take the first snap today. So good for him. He's starting off with a win. But yeah, I mean, while I think that obviously Max is the most experienced, he's kind of the known quantity. It's a new offense. And so everybody to some degree is starting on the same playing field. So we know a lot of what Max's strengths and weaknesses are. We're learning a little bit what Chandler's. I would say I don't expect Sam Jackson to be the starting quarterback, but don't write him off quite yet. He's got an incredible skill set, just what he can do athletically on the field. You've got to think that Sonny Dykes and his history of developing quarterbacks is looking at that young kid and thinking, I might have something special here. So maybe not this year, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see him on the field, with a special package or an opportunity to get some early snaps too.
Was she listening to our conversation?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We had that same conversation on the field day one, where we said, hey, do they create some plays just for him?
Yeah, he's certainly, when he gets loose, and you notice this week, he gets loose, he's really dynamic.
Yeah.
You could tell he's still not fully comfortable, running the show, so to speak, but that'll come in time. But I think you're exactly right. I think, putting some packages together to showcase, I mean, those elite athletes don't don't grow on trees. So.
Yeah. Hey, what's the hardest thing to do? Is it harder to name a starter in a battle with two? Or is it harder to keep that second guy happy?
I think it's harder to keep the second guy happy. I mean, you see it all the time. That second guy is super talented, ends up somewhere else. I think this is a little bit different, obviously, with Chandler being his second stop. And both guys are coaches' sons, so they understand the process. I think that helps a lot. They carry themselves that way on and off the field. They talk the talk, walk the walk. So I think this is sort of a special situation given the two involved. But it's still always hard to keep that second guy happy.
Melissa, I tell you, it's hard for me to figure out where I'm most excited. Obviously, I'm excited about Sonny Dykes' offense and Garrett Riley calling the plays. I'm excited about that. I'm anxious to see what that looks like. I'm really excited about Joe Gillespie's defense, too, which is going to free up guys, and kind of free their minds a little bit, less thinking, more playing, if you will. And they're going to play fast. But I'm also excited about Mark Tomerdal's special teams. I mean, just to see some of the things they went through this week already. But listen, it gets me fired up.
Well, the thing I've always loved about TCU, and then this goes back to the Gary Patterson days and even beyond, is because they have operated almost like a small school, that they find these kind of gadgety guys, these 5'8", 5'9", 4-3 guys that maybe you don't know quite where they fit, but you find a way to get them on the field. And where we've seen that really pay off for TCU is on special teams. And so when you have Mark Tomerdahl, who is such an experienced, such a veteran of working that unit, and you have these really dynamic special athletes. I mean, I think we forget about Darius Davis because of how many other guys like Darius Davis there are on the field. And when you look at what's happened in strength and conditioning and thinking about those guys getting bigger and stronger and being able to stay on the field more, I think that the return game could be a secret weapon for TCU this year for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you mention those kind of players because it kind of harkens back to what Max Duggan said earlier in the week when someone asked, hey, who are you excited to see? And he said, Gunnar Henderson.
Yes.
That was the guy that he wanted to see the most. I know you have great respect for both Gillespie and Tomerdahl. What are you most excited about?
Well, I think, one of the things with Tomerdahl is he's worked with, this is his 8th year now with total, at different stops with Coach Dykes. And so one of the things he pointed out, and we visited this week on Dissecting the Frogs with Coach Tomerdahl, and people forget this, but Sonny's first job at Kentucky actually was as a special teams coordinator. And anytime you have a head coach that puts an emphasis and values special teams, you can really create an edge, in that. So I think in all 3 phases, what you saw this week is speed and tempo and a sense of urgency, just across the board. I mean, from going from drill to drill to every rep in practice.
All right, Melissa, final thought here. 1 week in, any big question marks for you right now? Anything you're a little concerned about?
Well, I mean, I think the offensive line is the one area that we haven't really talked about that has been not necessarily a strength for TCU over the last few years. All of the offensive linemen are saying, hey, this is a special group of guys. This is a unit that can step up and be one of the great ones in the conference. If they can develop and they can come together, I mean, it all starts there, right? It all starts in the trenches. I know Beaudin feels that way. So if they can keep their quarterback, whoever it is, upright, if they can create space for the running game, the offensive players are there. The skill position players are there. We just need to give them time to go to work.
Speaking of good coaching, I know you love how this offensive line is being coached right now. You've talked about it.
Yeah, Coach Ricker does an amazing job. He's got quite a reputation. He obviously, he brought Ali over from SMU, so there's some familiarity there. I think that really helps the entire group, where you can say, this is what he likes and doesn't like, but does a really good job as a teacher, a true teacher. And gets down in terms of technique. And so, yeah, these guys look like, a formidable unit right now just to start the week.
All right. Melissa, thank you very much for hopping on with us. By the way, I'm going to predict right now that your new hairdo will look better, longer than his crispy white hat that he's wearing.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
You give it a day or two. It'll be brown, have a little ring
Texas
around
heat
it.
on that practice field. Yeah, he's going to be grass stained before you know it.
I'm with you. Have that little ring,
with
your crown.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple practices in, it's toast.
Exactly.